Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our very special pop-up live edition of HBCU Sports Live. I am joined by HBCU Sports Senior Editor Kendrick Marshall and our HBCU Sports contributor Jarrett Hoffman. It's football season. We have officially kicked off. You can see in the background, UAPB is giving Tulsa fits right now. It is 7-7. North Carolina A&T has kicked off its game against UAB, and that score is 14-3 right now in the second quarter, 6:37 left in a half. Gentlemen, thank you for taking a moment to ingratiate me by taking a few minutes out of your schedule. I know this was kind of like a last minute thing, but I just couldn't allow myself to not go into this first week of football games and for us not to take the time to just kind of talk about what we can possibly expect coming up. However, before we get into this week's slate of games, we would need to probably take a look back at the MEAC SWAC Challenge, and for the most part, kind of finish that off by kind of addressing the question, what did we learn? So Kendrick, we'll start with you. I think it's safe to say Jackson State had a pretty, I don't know if you can say devastating, but I think there were probably some who were surprised. And of course, if you ask the Jackson State folks, they'll probably tell you they knew it was coming from jump. But what did we learn from the MEAC SWAC Challenge, Kendrick?
Yeah, going into the game, like none of us knew anything, to be honest with you. Like we tried to make predictions, and those predictions were kind of couched a little bit. There was so much mystery around the team. JSU had a big number of turnover in their roster. New head coach TC Taylor. We didn't know what to expect. I talked to someone close to the program in the press box before the game, asked them about it, and they were like, well, I don't know either. In practice, there's talent there, but like when the bullets start flying, we got to see how it plays it out. And when it played out, Jackson State had a lot of bullets, man. And South Carolina State was the unfortunate recipient of those bullets. But JSU, they played a pretty much flawless football game. I mean, the Bulldogs scored at the end, and the game was already a blowout. But Jackson State dominated the game from the start on both sides of the ball, especially in the trenches. Their defense created a lot of havoc on quarterback Corey Fields Jr. He only finished the game with 51 yards passing. At one point in the game, he had completed 4 passes for 0 yards. That's how dominant the effort was. And Jackson State ground game, led by Irv Mulligan, transfer from Wofford. He led the way with over 100 yards rushing. Actually scored their first touchdown of the season with a beautiful 46-yard run in the first half. I mean, we saw some new guys on JSU emerge, some stars like DJ Stevens, who was all SWAC tight end. He got a touchdown. Jason Brown, their quarterback, set a MEAC SWAC challenge record with 361 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. At one point, he completed 22 passes in a row. So all told, Jackson State, from top to bottom, they proved that at least for one night, they didn't lose anything with the departure of Deion Sanders and a lot of their big-time players from last year.
Especially when you consider a roster overhaul of 70 players or something like that. That's just ridiculous. Jarrett, what did we learn about South Carolina State last Saturday?
First of all, you got to give credit to Buddy Pope because he pretty much called it. Remember during the week, he said that, he expected that team to be just as good, if not better, than the 2021 team. He talked about how he has faced TC Taylor teams and they have been tough. So I just think that they weren't ready to play, as he said. That they weren't prepared for what Jackson State could bring. Jackson State had the strategy of, not announcing who their starter was going to be. Most people in the know probably knew, but you didn't know for sure. And even if you did know who it was going to be, you couldn't prepare for him to pass for 350 something yards and only throw 5 incompletions all game. You couldn't prepare for that defense to be as sharp as it was, and it was as sharp as it was last year. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for South Carolina State. You know, they're going to go through some growing pains, but I mean, I think this is just a Buddy Poe celebration of his fantastic career and what he has accomplished with this program. Because I don't think that this team is a contender this year. I truly think that this is just, you know, getting your new players acclimated to the system and, you know, establishing the depth chart going forward. I don't think this is a season where they are looking for contention.
You know, it's surprising that you mentioned Coach Pugh, and I guess the fact that even he admitted that this team wasn't prepared to play. And while I can understand and appreciate how some monitoring social media, there were some South Carolina State fans who did not appreciate that at all. I mean, they really took offense to it. But at the same time, to me, and maybe, you know, I don't want to come across as sounding somewhat partial towards Coach Pugh, but there's a part of me that just thinks that, you know, it was kind of refreshing that he didn't necessarily make excuses. He took responsibility for it. And you know, I get it, but I said this earlier in previous conversations that while Jarrett, I understand you think maybe what we've seen out of South Carolina State last Saturday is likely we'll probably get more of that during the course of the season. I'm of the belief that I don't think the way we saw South Carolina State start this season, I don't think they're going to finish that way. I really don't. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying that they're going to be, that they're going to possibly, you know, win the MEAC. Who knows? But I just think that Coach Pugh was incredibly honest with himself, with members of the media during that press conference, and indicating, one, like you indicated, he said this isn't the same Jackson State team that we faced 2 years ago. That goes without saying, but that he had a familiarity with TC Taylor and kind of had some idea what to expect. So I don't know. I just don't think that Buddy Pugh is going to allow himself to finish this season with this team the way it started. You know, maybe it's wishful thinking, but obviously there's a lot of football to play. And that remains to be seen, it remains to be seen how South Carolina State is going to finish this year as we witness Coach Pugh in his final season as the head coach for the Bulldogs. Moving on to this week. The football season is here. Like I said, we've got games underway right now. Week one. I think it's safe to say that the premier or the marquee matchup of this weekend is going to be the Orange Blossom Classic, which once again is going to feature Jackson State and Florida A&M. You know, we've seen the last. Was this? Is this the third version?
The third installment of the game, yeah.
Right. The third installment. The first year, what was it, like 7-0, I believe, and then, you know, it was just an absolute blowout last year.
7-6 was the first year.
What's that?
7-6. It was 7-6.
Right. 7-6 first year, and then just an absolute blowout last year. Jarrett, I'll start with you. What can we expect Saturday? Or excuse me, Sunday?
Yeah.
In the Orange Blossom Classic.
Well, we don't have any more questions about Jackson State anymore. You know, so I think this is definitely going to be a competitive game. This is going to be an interesting game. I think the interesting thing to look at in this game is the parallels between Jeremy Musa and Jason Brown. Both transferred to their schools from Power 5 conferences. Both had incredible debuts. I think Jeremy Musa had 279 passing yards and was 28 of 38 passing against UNC when, you know, that was the game when Florida A&M had the whole the scandal about so many different players weren't eligible to play, including Isaiah Land. So he went out there and salvaged what was a disaster and actually had them looking good in that game. You know what I mean? And, you know, I think this is going to be a very close battle because I think both teams have very good passing games. Both teams have deep running back rooms. Both teams are look stout on defense. Both have stars on the defensive end. This is a star-studded game. This is going to be, of course, the SWAC East, the de facto SWAC East championship game. I think whoever wins this game is going to represent the SWAC East and the SWAC Conference Championship. And I'm much more confident in being able to say that Jackson State will win this game than I was prior to the start of the season. Prior to the start of the season, I probably would have said that Florida A&M is ready to get over the hump. But after seeing how Jackson State looked, it will be a close game. But I feel like Jackson State is going to pull this out, and they're going to once again represent SWAC East in the conference championship game. Could be wishful thinking, could be me being too in the moment of seeing that game, but I think if I was a betting man, I'd be slightly more confident to say that the team that has won this game for the past 2 years is more likely to once again win it this year.
Kendrick, let me ask you this: Could this possibly be a reverse situation in where this is obviously going to be FAMU's season opener? They've had an opportunity to see what Jackson State brings to the table now. Jackson State doesn't necessarily know what FAMU is going to bring to the table respectfully due to the fact that they haven't had a chance to really view any tape other than, I guess, maybe, spring game or whatever, footage that they may have from maybe late last year, or obviously would be able to kind of, be able to evaluate the tendencies of the coaching staff and so forth in terms of what they could possibly expect in preparing. But is it possible that we could find some sort of a surprise and that FAMU could possibly jump out and provide us with some level of offense and defensive prowess that we saw Jackson State do against South Carolina State?
There may be something to be said about that, but Jackson State played Florida A&M last year with Moose at quarterback, so they kind of know his tendencies. They know the Willie Simmons offense. The parts may be a little bit different this time around, with the Xavier Smith no longer there as a top wide receiver, but I don't think Florida A&M is going to change too much what they do, because it's been successful with what they do. Only team Florida A&M hasn't beaten in the SWAC is Jackson State. So they might change it up just based on their part, but talking to Willie Simmons Monday, he's kind of been downplaying it like, hey, like, this is a big game because it's almost Boston Classic, but we don't have any extra motivation because we're playing Jackson State. I don't buy that. After you get humbled the way they got humbled last year, especially, there is going to be some extra motivation inside the locker room. Florida A&M, they're a proud football program. They have a lot of quiet confidence. They exhibit a lot of that in the offseason. They believe this time around they can win. They're better prepared with it, with Musa being the second year in the offense as a senior. They lost some players on their team, Isaiah Lands in the NFL, Xavier Smith, no great. But they still have some really good, talented players in their ball club. Javon Morgan, Kendall Bowler, Marcus Riley, wide receiver. All those guys are all SWAC talents. All those guys are being looked at for the Reese Senior Bowl. So they will have talent to display on Sunday. But it's kind of hard to watch Jackson State play on Saturday and not think that they're going to do to Florida A&M what they did to South Carolina State. Because if you're watching that tape with Willie Simmons, you're thinking like, man, like, I thought that might be a drop-off. No, there is no drop-off. So I think Florida A&M is going to fare a little bit better in terms of like making the game competitive. But I think Jackson State, they have a lot of confidence around this ball game after the way they played against the Bulldogs last week. From the standpoint of winning, but the way they won and who they won with, I think that may be enough to propel them over Florida A&M, who's a really good football team.
So, Kendrick, you're predicting Jackson State, right? You okay? And Jarrett, you predict Jackson State. Okay, I think that's a safe bet. I'll go with Jackson State as well. With respect to other games on the slate, There are obviously some interesting matchups. There's the annual Labor Day Classic between Prairie View and Texas Southern. Grambling plays Hampton and New York. The Brick City Classic, I believe, is what it's called. That's a game that's going to be featured up in New York. But I think a lot of talk on social media will be, or buzz will be probably, or should I say, the attention will probably focus on a particular matchup that's going to take place in Hattiesburg, Mississippi on Saturday night. There's a clip that's going viral right now on social media. Let's take a look at it.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
Do y'all know who y'all play first game?
Alcorn.
Man, come on.
So hold up. So it ain't Troy?
Nah, we play Alcorn first game.
Oh my goodness.
September 2nd.
I already got a bet in.
Oh yeah, it game time then. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The bird,
man.
the bird gonna
I
go
don't know
crazy.
if y'all gonna be able to get free that night, but y'all know we're gonna have something.
Hey, that's the game. You need to go 400.
Yeah,
We trying to put up 70 on them.
man, what?
Them niggas think they got a chance of winning.
So you know what? Put it all on y'all, man. We beating Alcorn, man.
Facts.
We
Beating the shit out of Alcorn.
We beating the shit out. I said we trying to put up 70 on y'all.
I'm betting
man.
whatever.
Like we been doing all this off season training, getting our mind right and shit. First game, we got to come out and dominate some shit.
Yeah.
Like dominate some shit. We saying like.
Got to.
And we
I like
do
that.
Especially in the Rock. Come on, man.
Facts.
Feel me?
Man,
HBCU?
you know how live they finna be, bro.
Okay.
I ain't never experienced no like real live game like how they telling me Alcorn.
Man, I came to Just State when Just State played. Stood to me. Oh my God.
Okay, so you get the picture. Now, for what it's worth, I believe that podcast was produced, something like 6 months ago. But shout out to GA who's an Alcorn graduate who found it and posted it, and I think it's safe to say that may be somewhat bulletin board material for this Saturday. Kendrick, your thoughts on that clip and how this could possibly your thoughts on the clip?
Tell us how you really feel, right? if you're Southern Miss, like Frank Gore Jr., son of NFL running back Frank Gore, was leading the way in the disrespect toward Alcorn State, but that's how they really feel about the Braves. I mean, like USM, 7-win ball club from last year, Division I team, they feel like, hey, like we playing this small school, FCS, HBCU, we should like run over them. Saying they're gonna score 70 points is a little bit, I would say, dramatic. But this is all fun. Like I like when like the athletes are honest in this way. The coaches may not like it at all to say somebody's on the podcast and go after your opponent that way. But like for us in the media, us as fans, like it's really fun. And all week, like you hear like Alcorn fans going back at it with Southern Miss fans. Some of it in good nature, some of it not. But yeah, like it definitely puts a little bit more emphasis.
They didn't hesitate to make references to Brett Favre.
Oh yeah, like that slander gonna stay with them forever, no matter what happens with that case.
Right.
But yeah, so like it's a nice, good-natured back and forth between the two fan bases. I mean, the schools aren't separated by that far in the state. They're not traditional football rivals, though they played a few times before. Southern Miss won all 3 matchups in the series, but it definitely put a different type of emphasis on the game. You heard during the week, Alcorn State coach Fred McNair said like they expect to like bring a large contingent of fans to Southern Miss to try to drown out the crowd, to try to create a home field advantage for them. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I mean, I don't think Southern Miss is going to score 70 points on them, but I think it's going to be a good competitive football game nonetheless.
Jarrett?
So when I first saw the clip, and I saw, Frank Gore Jr. talking about, they were going to play Alcorn and how it seemed like their eyes got wide open, just so excited. Like, oh man, this is about to be a movie. They are about to make a movie out of Alcorn. Just look, in all seriousness, they're supposed to think that. They're supposed to think that they're FCS program going against an FCS program. They're not just any FCS program, an in-state FCS program. You know what I mean? So they're supposed to think that they're not gonna let them come into their house and even think that they can have a chance to win in their season opener, of course. But I know Alcorn, when they saw that video, they were like, "Oh, we were already planning on winning this game, but we're gonna go in there and we're gonna try to punch them in the mouth if they really think that they're gonna put up 70 on us." The defense is going to lay the wood more than they usually would, because they're going to find Frank Gore Jr. immediately and let him know that they are here and they are not just going to let them put 70 on him. Jarvin Howard is going to be on. I know he's been training all week. This is just getting muscle. He wants to stiff arm somebody. I know he wants to. I know that Alcorn is motivated to pull off this upset and become, because I don't think there's been a and I could be wrong, but I think the last HBCU to win against an FBS program was A&T in 2018 when they beat Elon. So I know that they're going to be motivated to win this game, and but this is just it's all entertainment. It's, these young kids are supposed to be confident in their abilities. They're supposed to be, brash and
right.
And we love seeing athletes, show their personalities and let, fans see a different side of them than just, them on game day in the pads and the helmet and cleats. You know what I mean? So this is amazing, but I know Alcorn is very motivated after seeing that.
I find it amazing though. And again, I'm simply going back to the response to that clip on social media, and I shouldn't be surprised, but it's amazing. I look at this situation kind of similar to NATO and the countries who are affiliated with NATO, where what's that saying? And I'm paraphrasing here: "Strike against one of us is a strike against all of us." That type of thing. And the reason why I brought that analogy in is because there are some HBCU fans who didn't even attend Alcorn that are now really pulling for Alcorn to go in, and as some would say, to go in and tap that ass. So, I mean, we've kind of had that conversation earlier during the week, and there were some of our supporters some of our people on the staff who, I'm not going to put them on the spot, but who are really going to be focusing in on that game to see what the outcome may be. Keep in mind, this is a Southern Miss team that finished either one game that could have, went into their final game it was the final game, but they finished the season 7-6. I mean, in essence, you're either one win or one loss away from either finishing one game above 500 or a game below 500. And keep in mind who Southern Miss's opponent is in week 2 when they travel to Tallahassee to play Florida State. So, if there's ever an opportunity for a team to put 70 on somebody, you might want to tap the brakes. But I get it. Like you said, these are kids, man. And I don't think that there is a whole lot to that anyone should really put into it, because, again, these are kids. Obviously, the players will probably have some extra motivation when kickoff starts. But I'm guessing Fred McNair and his coaching staff will do just about will do just about everything he can to make sure that they keep their emotions in check. Obviously you want them to be spirited and you want them to play with some emotions, but in a way that doesn't prove to be detrimental to the team. And so that's going to be interesting. Are there any other games in week 1 that any of you find intriguing, in addition to the Orange Blossom Classic and, of course, the game against Alcorn State and Southern Miss? Any other games that come to mind?
Well, Jerry, you kind of wrote about the 5 games we should all watch this weekend, so you take it away on that one.
Well, quick fact check on myself, by the way. It was East Carolina that North Carolina A&T beat in 2018. Just as an aside.
Yeah, that was East
But,
Carolina. That was the game Sam Washington said, someone go out and bring me my money. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
exactly
for anybody who didn't know the origin of that video. That's from that.
right.
But uh, if I were to go to the Division II side real quick, I would say the Red Tails Classic between Fort Valley State and Tuskegee. Tuskegee, who won the now disbanded SIAC West Division Championship last year. You know, they're returning a stud receiver in Antonio Meeks, who I think is primed for a breakout season in his sophomore year. You know, he'll have Bryson Williams in under center at quarterback, hoping for a better outing than he had last year, where he was 0 for 4 passing and threw an interception and was ultimately benched for Alabama State transfer Ryan Nettles. So they're going to be without their dynamic running back duo Torian Taylor and Dante Edwards. So that dimension is going to be gone. But they have a loaded young receiver group that I think, you know, with time, they are going to be one of the best groups in HBCU football. And Fort Valley State, you know, obviously they no longer have Emmanuel Wilson, who was the star of the game last year, ran for over 280 yards and scored 2 touchdowns in the Red Tails Classic last year. He's now with the Green Bay Packers. But I think the star of the show for Fort Valley State is the defense. You know, they have a stud defensive lineman in Tim Alderman, who I think is going to give the Tuskegee offense some problems. You know, I think he is going to show why he is not only one of the best HBCU defensive linemen, but he's one of the best Division II in all of not just HBCU, but Division II. You know, I think he's going to show why he will get some NFL draft consideration, or at least some undrafted free agent looks. If we were to go to the Division I level, I think Alabama State and Southern is going to be a pretty good game to watch. I think, you know, Bama State in their first season under Eddie Robinson, not the son of the legendary coach, no relation, but I think that team is very slept on. And I think we talk about Jackson State and Florida A&M. We talked about this last week. Do not sleep on Alabama State. You know, that defense was the second best in the SWAC last season. You know, they're returning a lot of their best players. You know, unfortunately, Keenan Isaac is no longer there. You know, I forget. He's on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers practice squad. I was trying to remember. He's on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers practice squad now, but they have a young defensive back in Adrian Maddox, who I think is going to eventually follow in his footsteps and eventually showcase his talents and why he deserves to be at the pro level. You know, and then you got Southern, who is the reigning SWAC West champions. You know, they're going to be eager to get this season off to a hot start. Even though this is in the conference game, they are definitely going to want to send a message to the rest of the SWAC that they are not just trying to compete in their division, but they want to win the conference. You know, they have a lot of talent. They're bringing in, you know, Gary Quarles, transfer from Alabama A&M to their backfield. You know, not only will he be able to produce, but he'll be able to mentor the young backs that they have there, you know, and hopefully keep Southern at the top of the mountain for years to come. You know, Eric Dooley, you know, coming back for, I believe it's his second or third season with Southern, you know, and I think this is going to be a very entertaining game and possibly even a preview of the SWAC championship if we're not careful. You know, wow. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a very fun game, and I think this is going to be very close, possibly game of the weekend. This might be my pick for game of the weekend.
It should also be noted that while Alabama State and Southern are playing this weekend to kick off the season, this does not count in the SWAC standings. This is considered a non-conference game. So no matter what the outcome may be, it isn't going to have an impact on either team's conference play with respect to the conference standings and any impact on the possibility of getting to the SWAC championship game. So that's just a note that many of you should put in consideration, because I know sometimes when these games take place, you automatically assume they're conference opponents, which they are. But this game will have absolutely no bearing whatsoever in the conference standing. So that's something that you all who are watching this right now should make note of. Cedric Walker, who is also watching this right now, made an interesting point. He mentioned you mentioned, Jarrett, about Alabama State's defense. Bubba Adams, I believe, is returning. Is that correct? Is that
Right.
middle linebacker?
Bubba Adams. Yeah.
Man,
Who many people thought should have been the SWAC preseason player, defensive player of the year.
That man, you talk about a guy who's got an engine. That cat is like you said, it doesn't nearly get enough. To be honest with you, I don't think they talk about him enough. And if he can stay healthy during the course of the season, he could very well be a difference maker. And for you to even go so far as to say that they could possibly be a contender for the SWAC East, that says a lot when you put in consideration they still have to play Jackson State and FAMU. But I agree. Alabama State is probably one of those teams that you'll probably have to say, you know what, don't sleep on them. And credit to Eddie Robinson Jr., who has them in a position to where we're actually talking about them like this. Considering that, you know, there were some people who kind of when he took over when he took over as head coach, you know, there were some who kind of scratched their head wondering if this was actually a pretty decent hire or if it was even a good hire. But so far, it appears as that Alabama State is actually making progress and that they're gradually getting better. So it remains to be seen what they're going to do. Are there any other games other than the fact that, you know, my alma mater plays Hampton? Now, I'm just going to say this. So let me go ahead and talk about this, because I'm not going to, y'all know I bleed black and gold. I don't even try to hide it. Just like Jarrett bleeds black and gold, but for another school, Bowie State. I hear you, brother. I get it. So, you know, but this is I'm going to make this prediction, and I want you guys to, I want you guys to just, this is the year of the Tiger. Hugh Jackson. I've seen social media. They've made all kinds of comments. I'm gonna just tell you now, man. On paper, this team is better. The coaching staff changed from last year. And if you guys know me, I'm gonna tell you guys about Hugh Jackson. I gave him an absolute pass for week one. I mean, for year one. And here's why. Because a lot of people, you know, they looked at his professional record and how he didn't do so well as an NFL head coach. I get that. But I'm a firm believer that when you hire a head coach, whether it be football, basketball, or any sport, you have to give that coach the full autonomy to run that program or that team as he or she sees fit. And if that person's going to be successful, you got to let them run it as they see fit. And when you interfere and you decide to make decisions that don't necessarily align with the coach, then guess what? You can't hold the coach responsible for the outcome of that season. So you guys know where I'm going with this. He comes in, yeah, it was a splashy hire, and we all know who he wanted to bring in as his offensive coordinator. We saw how that turned out. Okay. Art Briles, excuse me. Art Briles is the guy that he wanted. Now, quick. There was a lot of baggage. We get all that. But when you look at the facts of that case, and I don't want to go back and rehash all of that, you know, the person who was the president at Baylor at the time, who was an attorney, who was involved with that, he was fired. But guess what? He went back on to resume to practicing law. The person who was the AD at the time, I can't think of his name. Guess what? I think he's still the AD right now at Liberty. So he was able to go ahead and resume his life despite the fact that he was affiliated with that scandal. And in the case of Art Briles, who was the head coach, it's not like they were bringing him in as a head coach. They were just simply bringing him in as offensive coordinator. But the fact, and I'm just going to tell you guys, the reason why, you know, it wasn't the president. The decision not to bring on Art Briles came from Baton Rouge. When I tell you it was the higher ups, it was the higher ups. They interfered. So when you cut a man's legs up from under him, and you're going to say, okay, you're still the head coach, but you can't bring in that offensive coordinator. And guess what? As far as I'm concerned, it is over. So you can say it's an excuse. I don't think it is. But the thing is that he's had this is going into his second season. He's had an opportunity to see how the administration works. He now knows how the state works. He now knows what the fans expect. And I think you're going to see a much more improved Grambling team, and I think it starts Saturday with a victory over Hampton. I'm biased. I'm not going to hide it. But my opinion about that situation is sincere. And I just think that, this is kind of like the unofficial year one for Hugh Jackson. He had an opportunity to kind of test the waters that first year, given what he had to deal with. But it's been, for the most part, drama-free. There have been no off-the-field incidents that we are aware of, nothing that's come up that would take attention away from him doing his job as a head coach. I think you're going to see a much more improved Grambling team, and I'm here for it. I am here for it.
I'm glad you admitted, Ken, that you biased in your assessment of Grambling State University. A fine school, by the way.
It is.
But what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Like,
what do you mean? What am I talking about? What?
The year of the Tiger?
This is the year of the Tiger.
You're giving Hugh Jackson a pass? Hugh Jackson,
I gave him
NFL. Hugh Jackson, NFL.
Stop. I'm giving him a pass for last season because there's some Grambling folks that won't give him a pass for last season. I'm giving him a pass for last season.
They won't give him a pass. The previous coach they had actually won games. I know at the end it kind of ended terribly, but
Okay.
Roderick Fobbs was winning. He was the only coach in the history of the SWAC to win a Celebration Bowl, and they felt he got a bad deal by being fired in the middle of the season.
I thought he got a bad deal.
A very bad time.
He got fired with one game left before the Bayou Classic. Okay, but that has nothing to do with this year. Nothing. I'm just here to tell you.
I know, but like Hugh Jackson, an off season when he's not taking photographs and videos on private jets, wearing jumpsuits and jewelry and all this stuff and expensive cars, he's been promising people that, hey, we're bigger, we're better, we're stronger, we're faster than this. But Ken, we don't know anything about them. We're only being so what Hugh Jackson's telling us. And we don't know how good they are because they don't have a quarterback right now. Do you actually believe in Julian Calvez or Miles Crawley? Because Hugh Jackson's supposed to be the quarterback guru. And his first year, the quarterback play wasn't that good.
I do. And I expect, I probably, I'm telling you now, Miles Crawley is going to be the starting quarterback Saturday. From what I'm told.
Okay.
And then look, I'm gonna tell you now, that's an upgrade from last year. And when I say upgrade, I mean from the batch of quarterbacks that were competing for that job, because it was during the course of last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and feel free to correct me on this, I think there were 3 starting quarterbacks during the course of the season. 3. So when you have to start 3 quarterbacks during the course of the season, that means you don't have one. Okay, so I'm
what did this say that Hugh Jackson won't name a quarterback now?
Why would any? Okay, so all right. Why would any coach? If you recall, TC Taylor did the exact same thing before the start of the MEAC Challenge. Everybody expected Brown, but he didn't name him. I get it. You don't. I mean, nobody wants to give the opponent any opportunity to. I mean, look, man, it may not really matter a whole lot, but I get it. There were a lot of people who were. He wasn't the only coach who didn't indicate that who his starting quarterback was going to be. We've seen this before. This isn't anything new. Coaches do this all the time.
Yeah, I asked that because, like, if you have to name a quarterback, how can you be so confident this is going to be the year of the Tiger, in your opinion?
Well, Kendrick, there are things that I know that you don't know. I mean, after all, I'm not going to hide the fact that I've got inside information. Okay, I do. I'm just not privy to share it all. I did just share that Miles Crowley was going to be the starting quarterback on Saturday. But I may have said too much. But I'm just simply saying, I know a lot of things that aren't necessarily out in the public space. But to answer your question, these coaches aren't obligated to tell us anything. Granted, matter of fact, there were some people who were annoyed during the week 1 press conference because they were tired of the same old coaching, the same old coach speak, and it wasn't really. Where did you go? This is live. You back with us?
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened. Like, you kind of like knocked out my internet with your rant there.
No, but I'm just saying there were some people who were a little turned off about last week's SWAC coaches conference because they were fed up with the rhetoric of the coaches. Now, I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that most of those coaches hadn't played yet, but I think things will get better after this first week, and then when we listen to the coaches speak on Monday, on Tuesday. The SWAC coaches teleconference is going to be on Tuesday, not Monday, due to Labor Day. But I think we'll probably get some more direct answers because now that the coaches will have a game under their belt, they'll be able to address it, and we'll be able to probably we'll be in a position where we can even ask them some better questions. So look, man, the fact that Hugh Jackson hasn't publicly announced who the starting quarterback is going to be, that's not anything. We've seen this before, and
but like it's coming off a year in which their quarterback play hindered their ability to win football games. That's what I'm saying. And like, if you just got to decide between Julian Calvez, who was a young freshman last year, and Miles Crowley, a transfer, and you haven't decided, at least publicly, like who the guy is, like that don't exude a lot of confidence in me about like Grambling making the next step.
Kendrick, he didn't announce it publicly. I'm trying to tell you, the man probably knew who the starting quarterback was going to be.
I know, but like as a coach, like come up the season they came off of, you want to exude confidence in the fan base. I know, like strategy-wise, coaches don't like to name their quarterback.
The fans aren't playing the game, though, Kendrick. The fans aren't playing.
But they support the team, though.
I know this much. All Grambling and Hampton folks, only thing they care about when it's all said and done is a win. That's all they want. They don't care who the starting quarterback is. They don't care who the starting wide receiver, linebacker. They don't care who the head coach is. But they may care, but all they want is a win.
Matters.
They don't care. They don't. That's all they want. So I'm just simply saying you're saying that this is an issue because he didn't announce it publicly, but I'm just saying, man, I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that he didn't name who his starting quarterback was going to be, probably because I already knew, but. Again, didn't we know Brown was going to be starting quarterback for Jackson State? Did you not know that? Was that a surprise to anyone?
No, not to me it wasn't, but Jackson State also didn't have like quarterback issues going into the season. Okay. I mean, like we didn't know like who their quarterback would be, but at the same time, like Hugh Jackson, this for Hugh Jackson, this is a prove year for him. Like,
but they didn't
got to be better than 3-8.
But again, when you put in consideration that overhaul that Jackson State had during the offseason, it wasn't an issue, but it was still a question.
It was questions for sure, yeah. But Jackson State had won the SWAC 2 years ago. They had been in Celebration Bowl. They had a number 2 recruiting class in FCS coming back. They had 19 FBS players who came in. Okay. Grambling has none of that, Ken.
Okay.
They have none of that.
Okay.
So my whole point is like
it's the year of the Tiger.
As a Grambling alum like you are, how can you be confident Hugh Jackson coming up the year they had, and they don't know who their quarterback is?
It was the year of the Jackson State Tiger. It's not the year of the Jackson State Tiger. It's the year of the Grambling Tiger. I want to be very specific. I want to be very.
It could be Texas Southern. I don't know. Could be they Tigers too.
It is the year of the Grambling Tiger.
Yeah, there's a lot of Tigers. You got to clarify which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, man, this was fun. Look, this is a pop-up edition of Live Show. I know we didn't really announce it, but, we kind of wanted to just kind of get through some technicalities that we're experiencing. So this will be something that we do weekly. How often, I don't know yet. But gentlemen, I do want to thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to me and then talk to HBCU football fans out there on the internets about the upcoming season. And gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day. And well, let me see, where are we right now? What are there any updates on the scores?
So Kentucky State beat Clark Atlanta 34-20.
Okay.
West Virginia State in a barn burner just barely loses 37-35 to Morehead State.
To Morehead State? Oh, wow. Okay.
Tulsa is currently up 28-7 over UAPB, and UAB currently leading 21-3 over North Carolina A&T.
21-3.
Yes, 21-3.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, we will do this again next week. Enjoy your games this weekend. And to you folks who are watching us live right now, do me a favor, please subscribe, hit the like button, do all that other stuff that YouTubers tell you that you need to do. Continue to support us, and it will benefit us greatly down the line. I'll see you guys next time. You guys be safe, okay?